nuclear weapons, and long-range missiles. Will Ripley reports it's
control. Her gravity is all that I know. She's over me. She's over me. She caught me with her hypnotic dance. She holds me here with only a glance. She's over me. She's over me. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, welcome to the Paranormal Portal. It's our Saturday edition, and we are live and underway here. Hope you're having a good weekend. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us here on the show. It's an exciting night, I'm here to tell you. We got a great show lined up for you. It's one that I'm excited to bring you. But we are here, and by we, I mean I'm not alone here in the studio. In fact, I brought a friend. Welcome, Mr. Longbeard.
Is that me?
It is you.
Is that me you're talking about? You're such a nice guy.
You sexy slab of man.
Yeah. Last time I got called sexy, it wasn't a slab of man. Trust me.
Oh, hey, there's a family show. Just keep it clean.
No, it was you. No, never mind.
All right, but how you doing? Okay.
Oh, I've had the day off, and I get the day off tomorrow, and oh my goodness.
You're going to get all spoiled.
Yeah, I know, huh? It's the weekend off. Woohoo!
Wow,
I don't know what that is.
You're going to just break loose and shovel or something?
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to put chains on my boots and go shovel. No, man.
He's going to get all wild and start shoveling.
Woohoo! Woohoo! We getting it.
I don't know. We've got enough snow up here to bury a horse.
You got more than we did out there.
Really?
Yeah, you got much more.
Well, we can never have enough, apparently, because that's just the way it rolls up here.
Hey.
I don't love it at all. I'm not a winter person at all. I was when I was younger, but since I've hurt myself a number of times and shredded my knee, several times as well, it's just like, the cold weather kind of hurts actually. But welcome to the show, and ladies and gentlemen, the phone lines will be open throughout the course of the show tonight. And if you want to call in, the phone number is 720-923-0500. We will be happy at some point in the show to take phone calls, but leave it till the second half anyway if you've got to call in, because we definitely want to give our guest tonight plenty of room to flex, because this is his first time into the portal, ladies and gentlemen. This is his first foray into and I don't know if he knows for sure what he's involved with, but no, he's been an amazing supporter of our show, and of course he's one of the OGs, in broadcasting, and TFRLive fellow co-host as well. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm talking about our good friend and TFR alumni, Mr. Kev Baker.
Kev Baker!
Welcome to the show, brother.
can't believe it. I'm finally on the show that I watch every night before I go to bed. What's that all about? This is great, man.
Oh, it's great to have you. It looks like, I don't know what it is, if it's my Skype or what, but you look like a Picasso here. It's like
It definitely must be your Skype because I'm in a smart city over here. So we get like 500 megabit broadband. So I don't know what's going on there, man.
Yeah, I don't know either, but snow. I'm in the north of Idaho, so we're just going to have kind of a Rorschach Kev on the show tonight. But there you go. Now
I look like I'm kind of drifting in from another dimension. It's quite cool.
It fits perfectly.
This is the portal after all. So welcome to the show, brother. You've been on the network for a long time with me, and a lot longer than me, as a matter of fact. And I'm sorry it took this long for you to get over here, but I'm just thrilled you made it this time.
Everything happens at exactly the right time, Brent. Right, so for whatever reason, the universe has dictated it's now, and here we are. So I can't wait to get into some of this stuff. And I love listening to you guys. You're absolutely brilliant. I cover the abnormal. You do the paranormal. It's the perfect fit.
The Abbey Paranormal.
We are redefining the weird, that's for sure, between the two of us. And
Big time.
And of course, we definitely embody that in our own lives. So.
Yes, definitely.
But let me just put you in the interviewee seat. Now, you've been interviewing people forever and such, and now it's the time for us to ask you some questions. And I guess the first natural question, as in terms of the paranormal, is where did your love affair with the weird and paranormal start?
It's always been there, I think, Brent. Coming up, being brought up in the Highlands of Scotland, it's steeped in supernatural, paranormal activity. And I was from a village called Fort Augustus, and it just sits right on the mouth of Loch Ness. Well, I'm getting feedback again.
Yeah, it flickered here too, so sorry about that. But.
So growing up on the banks of Loch Ness, you can't exactly escape the woo. No. So whether it's monster, but there's also a whole load of haunted houses up there, and like I say, there's strange activity. Then when I got older, I came to learn that there's ley lines up in the Highlands, so that probably adds to some of it. So when I was growing up, my mum, my gran, it would be a common occurrence, we'd be sitting around the coal fire, ghost stories would happen. And then after my gran passed away, it was my mum and my auntie and me in the house. And there was a back bedroom in the house that my mum and my auntie, they were absolutely petrified of. My mum had an incident where she had one of these kind of, some people would call it sleep paralysis. But she swears to this day that there was something pushing her down on the bed, forcing her down on the bed. And from that point forward, she never went back in that room again. Now, I decided, I was young at the time, I never really paid much attention. I went and stayed in that room. Nothing ever happened to me, Brent. Nothing happened. And then we eventually got a lodger in, so I moved to one of the other rooms, gave him that room. And he was absolutely stuff going on all the time. So I've got no idea why it kind of avoided me. But yeah, the paranormal's always been around me. Ouija boards when I was younger as well. Not that I'm proud of it. But it's always been something that's been there, and it's definitely something I've always been interested in,
Yeah, I can relate with that, and I think for me, it's just kind of I love this topic because it breaks up the mundane nature of our lives, these fantastical, incredible events that happen that just redefine reality, and they redefine people in their wake. And to me, that's just magical. I mean, it's like the bit of magic from all the way back that still is with us, that maybe keeps us believing that there's just so much more, and reality is so much more dynamic than we think.
Absolutely. And when I first started doing YouTube and things like that, I was a massive Alex Jones fan. Still am, actually, to be honest with you. But I was covering those kind of topics, not so much the paranormal. And over the years, I came to learn that covering the politics, covering the big events that happen, all that ends up happening is it's very divisive, and you split people down the middle. And the paranormal, the woo, as I call it. It's something that brings people together. It doesn't seem to cause so much arguments, and I find it very infotaining, as I call it.
Infotaining, nice.
Yeah.
That's nice. That's nice. And you, of course, you just mentioned tonight that you started that YouTube career 15 years ago.
Years.
I had no idea. It was a gentleman from Australia. He says, Kev, you probably don't know this. I've never messaged you before, but I've been watching you for 15 years. I thought to myself, no, you haven't. That's just a lie. I mean, I'm sure he was trying to make my ego feel good, but then when I thought about it, I thought, you know what? It probably was around the time of 2005, 2006-ish. It was post 9/11. And yeah, I've been doing that a while on there. Wow. And I had Alex Jones, like I say. Mm-hmm. And it's quite weird because the other show I would listen to, I came across Chris and Cherie Geo.
Right.
They had a show called Truth Frequency, and totally fell in love with them. Yeah. They used to do all these big interviews, all the big names, and it was just fantastic. And then a few years later, started listening to Joe Joseph, the Freedom Link, and he had a host on there called AC Griffith. And I would listen to them at work. I used to do security guard, walking around, my mind numb with my thumb up my bum and my brain in neutral. So I used to listen to podcasts all day. And then one day, Joe Joseph, he mentioned my name. He'd seen one of my YouTube videos, and I tell you, it made me feel like 100 foot tall. It was absolutely amazing. Yeah. So we became friends on Facebook, and then they offered me the chance to come and join a network. Nice. It was Unbound Radio. And Unbound didn't last too long, unfortunately. I think it was Shep Ambellis that was running that.
Oh, okay.
But when that folded, Chris and Cherie said, well, we would love you to come on Truth Frequency. So lo and behold, I end up on the network that was ran by two of my idols at the time. It was kind of surreal. But I think, you know, the way the universe works, and Chris and Cherie, they talk about synchronicity. They taught me all about that, listening to their show. I think it was pure synchronicity. I think I was always going to end up on TFR. Yeah. That sounds a bit weird, a bit full of myself, but it just seems like it's the right place and I'm meant to be there. As are you.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's funny because my entry into this happened just by happenstance. I mean, I've known Chris for a while before the show, but I was just like, all of a sudden I was just like, I want to do a show. It just like, it came to me out of nowhere. It was like like you say, whether it's providence or, you know, serendipity or whatever, or fate. But I just like, I want to do a show. This urge came at me. And it's weird because the portal came fully formed into my head. I mean, I knew what this show was going to be. I knew what it was called. I knew, you know, I knew what it was. And I pitched it to him and he's like, yeah, let's do it. You know, so.
Oh, you're lucky because I've been doing this years now and I still don't know what my show is. I go here, there, everywhere. All I know is it's called the Kev Baker Show and we talk about anything and everything. So, yeah.
You guys cover some amazing topics.
Yeah,
you're not afraid to dive into the science, the quantum physics, the conspiracy, the woo, the paranormal, the weird. I mean, you guys really have a great format, and I think that's one of the really beautiful things about what you're doing is you're not chained to a narrow vision. Exactly. You have the flexibility to whatever your whim is to do, and that I think is really cool.
It's the way my mind works, Brent. I mean, we were talking before the show how we were having a laugh saying it doesn't work when you script things.
Yeah.
And if I was to try and concentrate on one topic, that just wouldn't be me. Right. It wouldn't be natural to me because usually when even I'm having a conversation with one of my friends, I go here, there, everywhere, throw something totally out of left field at them. So the show, it really is just like a fly on the wall kind of ride along on the journey that I'm on, and I think a lot of us are on right now. Call it the awakening, call it the apocalypse. I don't know what's going on, but yeah, I'm enjoying it, really enjoying it.
That's pretty cool. Now, speaking of this, and I don't know if you want to dive into this too much or not, but I've got to ask you because I think that you're plugged in pretty well to all the information going around on this. Now, I've been hearing ever since CERN was developed about the fear of the black holes, about messing with things, and do you think that there is reason for this kind of concern for meddling with these kind of things, or do you think it's a pretty stable science, or it's not as risky as a lot of people would like to believe? What are your thoughts?
I would compare it not quite as dangerous, however, quite as ambiguous as the Manhattan Project. They said back then that there was a chance they may set the atmosphere on fire, but we'll go for it anyway, right? So that's kind of how it feels with CERN as well, because they openly talk about colliding these particles and, like you said there, creating miniature black holes, portals, if you will, to other dimensions, and getting a snapshot of what the conditions were like in the picoseconds to the Planck scale of seconds after the Big Bang. Recreating the Big Bang in a particle collider under Geneva. Yeah, it's got to be safe, right?
No problem.
It's all right.
No problem at all. But yeah, I must admit, it's something I'm actually genuinely interested in. I'm a little science geek, always have been. And it's just amazing science. And I must admit, when I was working with Anthony Patch, I learned a hell of a lot. And I can never thank him enough for that. However, since maybe we parted ways, Tony went onto his own show, and I stepped back a little bit, and I wasn't covering it so much, and I was listening to other sources as well. To be honest with you guys, I'm not quite as concerned as I once was. But then again, who knows? Because we just don't know what effect they are or may or may not be having on our reality right now.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's 50-50 for me,
Yeah.
Yeah, I can understand that, because it's like, just as a point of reference, the whole truther/flat earth thing. It's like there's a lot of people who believe it. There's a lot of people who don't believe in the flat earth theory, and some people in the globe theory. But it really comes down to, who cares? Other than money, does it really affect your life? And on an everyday level, no, it does not. So it's not that, in my opinion, this is strictly humbly my opinion, it's not that big of a deal. And
I absolutely agree with you, brother.
And you
I often say, until the shape of the earth dictates like my bills and my day-to-day life, then for me, I open the curtains every morning and I look out the window. I've got bills to pay. I've got my life to live. I've got bigger things to worry about.
Yes.
Once I've got everything squared away and I've got $1 bajillion in the bank, maybe then I can get interested in what shape the playing field is. But right now, I'm stuck in Glasgow. It really doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly. But it was you, and you mentioned it earlier. It's the divisiveness of the whole thing, and that's how the paranormal is, and that's how everything is. There's the duality to it, and I just find that you seem to agree with us, and we like that.
Yeah, I do. I try to keep an open mind on everything.
Sure.
And the flat Earth, it's caused so much kind of controversy and things like that. And I try and stay away from it, because if people believe the world is flat, they believe it's flat. And when they look for the evidence, they'll see it's flat. And me, I worked in the army with satellites and space and things like that. So obviously, I'm kind of on that globe side of things. But like you said, what does it really matter in the end of the day? We've all got lives to live. We've got a family to support. And until the world is rid of famine, homelessness has ended, and we've solved all of our problems, I really do think it's just, whatever people want to believe, that's cool.
Right.
It's their journey.
Yeah, good point. I agree. I mean, I don't pretend to know enough. I just believe it's a globe, and so far that's served me okay. As long as gravity is holding me to the surface of it, I don't care what shape it is.
I'm with you, dude. Yeah. I'm with you.
Yeah, we're here, and we just got to do what we got to do. That's all there is to it. So, yeah,
Exactly.
There you go.
Well, and this is just a sampling of part of the journey on your show, but you've done such an amazing job, and of course you're joined by Scotty, and you're joined by Joe, and even Popeye on the weekends,
yeah.
which is really cool too. So you've got this great melding of people that have come together to have these discussions, and I like the fact that you guys don't like share a brain. You all have a very interesting, unique viewpoints on these things, and it truly is a discussion. So I think that that's really powerful. But I know you guys discuss the woo over there and lots of it, and that's our wheelhouse here too. And I know one of the things that you're very passionate about, or at least used to be, and this is something we discussed one of the times I was on your show, was the Mothman.
Oh yeah,
Now,
always the Mothman intrigues me, man.
yeah, it's crazy. Now, have you heard of the whole rash of sightings that are happening around Chicago of the Mothman?
In Illinois.
Is that still going on? Because I know it was happening maybe a year or so ago. We covered it. Might even have been longer than that. It was all around the Illinois area, but I mean, it could well still be going on. Is it still happening now?
As far as I know, yeah, there's still sightings coming out. And now people are not only seeing these flying humanoids, but they're also seeing these tall humanoids standing around, but they're like 7 or 8 feet tall, but they're very lanky and small and look like they got like bug kind of heads and like mantis eyes and stuff, is what people are reporting lately. And to me, that's like, are they landing? And you know what I think of, Kev, is that movie Mimic. Do you remember that movie Mimic? Where the bugs could look like people and stuff? And that's what I keep thinking of when people are talking of Mothman and then these strange, really tall silhouettes of people standing there that seem to have bug eyes. I'm thinking Mimic.
It's like we're living in a version of They Live. You know, you take the sunglasses off and you can see everything that's going on, you know?
Yes, obey.
Yeah, exactly. I was reading something today about a 7-8 foot tall entity, but not buggy eyes. It was the Hat Man. And the Hat Man's another intriguing thing as well. And the Mothman, I think, really, there's more than just the Mothman going on. If you look into John Keel's work, you know, when the original Point Pleasant stuff was going on. And I was quite surprised when I read the Mothman prophecies, because I thought it was just going to be about the Mothman. But really, it was about all of the strangeness that surrounded anything paranormal. Right. And the prevalence of these, I'm going to call them individuals, that we would call the men in black. And I'm calling them individuals because I'm not too sure, and people can laugh if they want, that's okay, but I don't know if they're human or not. And the reason I say that is because John Keel in his book, he was talking about how these individuals would turn up at witnesses' houses and they would have recording equipment with them. They would say they're there to do an interview for whatever it was, but they wouldn't know how to work the equipment they had with them. Or they would always be looking at their clock and they would just be out of place. It was as if they didn't really know what was going on, or they shouldn't be there. And I don't know, there's something about that whole kind of Mothman, that whole thing, that really intrigues me even to this day. Probably I get more intrigued as time goes on, because more and more of these reports of the men in black, etc., they keep on turning up, man.
Yeah, and that's really creepy. I can't say that I've heard too many things of the Men in Black, so that's cool, because I've wondered why were they so prevalent in the 50s and 60s, and then they just kind of disappeared. It was like there was suddenly no more Men in Black, but I'm glad to hear that there's still experiences with them, because that was a big oddity to me. It's like, well, where did they go?
Well, I was reading on mysteriousuniverse.com the other day about how it was Nick Redfern. I've had him on the show one time, and he's an expert, if you can call it that, on the Men in Black. But he recently spoke to somebody, and it was a story about the Men in Black from the 1930s.
Wow.
Oh.
Yeah, and it was around a farm, and the people in the farm, they were having a heck of a time. Paranormal activity, and it all culminated one night when they were looking out at this big barn out the back, and all of them witnessed the barn burning. They went out to try and stop it burning. The barn burned down.
Mm-hmm.
Then after it all settles down, they go to bed. They get up in the morning, open the curtains, barn's there.
Wow.
Nothing's happened to the barn. And then they're driving down to the local town, and they're stopped by, you guessed it, men in black with their hats on. And yeah, so this was the 1930s, and I think it was somewhere in Michigan. I might be wrong there, but yeah, the 30s now. So who knows how far back this goes, because the further back in time we go, we weren't as interconnected. Obviously, today we can share stories, at light speed on the internet.
Right.
I wonder how long these men in black characters have been turning up, and maybe it's me putting two and two together here, because I like TV shows and Fringe. I don't know if you guys watched that.
Oh, yeah.
And there was a character in Fringe called the Observers.
Right.
And they would go between the dimensions, and they would be there to catalogue and watch really kind of historic events and make sure everything's just going according to the timeline, the way it's meant to go. And in the show, it's J.J. Abrams. He's obviously the big Hollywood director now, but
sure,
they were dressed in a black suit, black hat, and a shirt. And I don't know if he was tipping his hat to the fact that he has read into the Men in Black, but there's almost something, a quality of them, like they're here to record things. Whether they are literally observers, I don't know, Brent. I just don't know.
Right. There is another set of people along the same lines called the Watchers.
Yeah.
And, very, very, very much the same as the observers. They don't seem to be of earthly origin. They don't seem to be really connected to people in general. As a matter of fact, wasn't one of the characters the observer? Didn't he drink like Tabasco sauce or something in that show? Yeah. So
and they were all named after specific months of the year.
Right.
I think he was October or something. Yeah.
Right. But the Watchers, have been around for a while too. I've looked up, I've talked about them before, and they don't seem to be, like you say, of earthly origin. Who knows? So I agree with you. I don't know if they're all human. Like there's like the observers or the Watchers, and then there's the human element of the Men in Black, that kind of thing. So who knows?
Who
exactly,
does
and that's why it's so interesting, right? Who knows?
Yes, exactly.
Well, I know we're just about to go to break, ladies and gentlemen. So as you can tell, it's going to be an amazing journey throughout the rest of our evening tonight. So don't go away. We will be right back in just a couple minutes with more of the Paranormal Portal with Mr. Kev Baker joining us here in the portal. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, half hour number 2 is underway now here on the Paranormal Portal. I'm still your host, Brent Thomas, and I'm still joined by Mr. Don Longbeard.
Hi.
And we have a wonderful special guest, his first foray, his second half hour in the Paranormal Portal.
He's getting in deep. Watch out.
Loving it already. Loving it already, guys. This is awesome.
Our very own Kev Baker is here.
Sir.
And we are just honored to have you as well. It's been something that shouldn't have taken this long, and I'm sorry it did. But like you said, it was meant to be now.
This is the time. This is the place.
So,
and I was going to say to you guys, sorry, Brent, but we were talking last night about maybe doing a 5-hour marathon.
Oh my God!
Next month, I was thinking. And I want to give a shout out to one of your moderators. I think it was the girl you went Sasquatch hunting with.
Black Tree.
Brent.
Black Tree, Julia.
Yeah, Black Tree in the chat, yeah. And Friday the 13th lands in March.
Ooh, that would be perfect.
Would that not be the perfect date for a marathon?
That sounds just about
I
as
have to
beautiful.
schedule the grind off, but
Well, you got to take one for the team, Don. You got to be here.
You got to be here, Don. It won't be the same without you, man.
Yeah, definitely. Let's do that. Let's seriously do that.
Cade from Believe podcast. He says 5-hour show. Yeah, buddy. No, dude. That 8-hour marathon we did was crazy.
That was a lot of fun though. I mean, it was we did an 8-hour marathon around Halloween, Kev, and it was good. I mean, it really went fast, but I think the thing that surprised me the most was then the amount of people that stuck with us through it.
All the way.
I just thought we'd be.
I find when you're on radio, because you guys enjoy what you're doing, you genuinely enjoy the topic, right? And I enjoy what I talk about. And time just flies. It condenses, and it just 8 hours can feel like 4 hours, you know? So I'm totally up for it, guys. I'd love to hang out with you on Friday the 13th. I think that'd be really good. And I think the audience, they would love that.
Yeah, we'll definitely make that happen. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are planning now as our official announcement for Friday the 13th in February, right? February or March? What'd you say?
March 13th is a Friday.
March.
Yep.
Friday.
Do you like how I done that, Don? Do you like how I just landed that on him in public so he couldn't say no?
Yeah, it's not possible now. We have to do it. Good timing there, big guy.
Kev is a master showman. That's all there is to it.
He's got the marketing bug.
No, we're going to make it happen. So that'll be a great time. Great time. I'll have to set my reminders so I don't screw up something between now and then. And we'll have to talk logistics because I'm not sure how that works with the network and everything and how we would do it. But I think that'd be epic. Just absolutely epic. But yeah.
We can make it happen. We'll make it happen somehow.
We have plenty of time to work on the logistics, so it'll be in March then. Perfect. I did want to get back to the Mothman quick. Sure. I have another question about it, and this is something that I had never heard of, but I covered this in a story recently. And they were talking about these witnesses seeing the Mothman flying, and these are the Chicago witnesses anyway, seeing it flying, but many reports are of them flying are not showing them flapping their wings. It's like they're gliding, but not just sinking to the ground on a gravity glide. They're just like shooting through. Is that familiar to you as well?
Yeah, I remember one that sticks in the mind. It was the Chicago kind of wave that we covered. It was a few years ago, maybe over a year ago anyway, I was covering the Chicago wave. And I do remember one like that. And a lot of the accounts, I would say most of the accounts that I've actually heard of, typically, they're just standing there. Or they're perched on something. And I don't know, that it's just something about it, the big glowing red eyes, and whether it's interdimensional or I would imagine it has to be, right? We've never found a Mothman carcass, have we? So I would definitely think something interdimensional about that.
Okay, that was my next question is, what do you think they are? So you think they're an interdimensional. Are they harbingers of doom?
They could be when you look at Point Pleasant. I mean, the bridge that went down there, and unfortunately people losing their lives. So it could well be some kind of omen.
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah.
And there's some other claims that have surfaced, and I have no idea as the validity of them, and I suspect probably not a lot of credence to them, but other people have claimed that they appeared in Minnesota before that bridge collapsed, or at least one or more sighting was experienced then. And then on 9/11, people have made claims that they were seen in New York City, and so they if that is indeed the case, then they would seem to be, definitely... their presence would indicate some kind of tragedy coming, but I wonder what the hell's going to happen in Chicago then.
What hasn't happened in Chicago?
Isn't it happening every weekend in Chicago?
Yeah.
I mean, that place is like downtown Baghdad, from what I can read into,
Yeah. They got a lot of...
that's no offense to anyone that's in Baghdad or Chicago, but, but it's pretty bad there.
Yeah, it's crazy. But
it's a nuts little place, yeah.
I was just thinking, are they extraterrestrial? But then again, let's go into that then. Do you think extraterrestrials are interdimensional, or is that one and the same?
I think you would have to have an interdimensional component to it.
Mm-hmm.
If their technology is governed by the same laws of physics that us humans have put together. Okay. I.e., they say Einstein, you can't travel faster than the speed of light. I've got no reason to believe or disbelieve that. I'll take his word for it. But, that kind of limits space travel. The distances between planets and between galaxies, it's just astronomical, literally, right?
Right.
So I think you would probably call it hyperspace, call it something. Would that make them interdimensional? Possibly. And I know a lot of people, depending on their belief system, that will determine how they interpret these things. If you're Islamic, it'll be the jinn. If you're Christian, there'll be demons, etc., etc. Right.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much going on. I don't think there's one answer that would encapsulate and fit everything.
Sure. Yeah. And I think that's probably true for anything. In fact, I don't think that there's just ghosts. I think that there are a whole catalog of things that we experience that exist to us in a spiritual form, right. That they're kind of intangible or not quite fully here, but can be, and can affect our world around us. But I think that there's many different things that appear to us as spirits, but we just call them spirits or ghosts. And so maybe it's the same thing for extraterrestrials. I don't know, as far as the faster than light thing, would and I don't pretend to know the science much about it, but this is something that's just jumping out at me now. Is a subspace field, would that be akin to an interdimensional field? Would that be kind of a similarity?
It would be out of our space and time.
Right.
And space-time, that's our three-dimensional world, right? So 4-dimensional if you throw in the time. So I don't know. I suppose it's semantics, really, if you call that interdimensional or not.
Okay.
But to give the listeners an idea, I mean, even if we did have a propulsion system that took us to light speed, Alpha Centauri, 4 light years away, it would still take you 4 years to get to that closest kind of star. Mm-hmm. 4 years of traveling, and that's just the closest thing. And then you think about the vastness of the universe. Mm-hmm. So you're talking long haul travel, right? Even at light speed.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And that's the kind of stuff that really cooks your bacon, but it's just curious to me.
That's why I think if we ever do have that first contact moment, mm-hmm. I think the chances are it would probably be something robotic, AI, cybernetic.
Something
Look how we do it. I mean, we send out probes. Right. Look at Voyager. It's not manned. It's just got instruments. So I would imagine because of the limitations, if we were going interstellar, they'd probably send probes first, AI, take pictures, send communications back. Mm-hmm. I don't think we would have men and women in that kind of space flight,
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I suppose not. Probably just send dogs. Just kidding.
Probably.
That's what they did at first. They just sent up a bunch of animals like, oh, I hope they make it back. But,
I do believe, I'm a firm believer that we can't be the only game in town, mm-hmm. i.e. the universe. That would be, what a disappointment that would be for a start. I like to think it's more like Star Wars, Star Trek.
Mm-hmm.
There's a whole host of things out there, but because of the distances, we may never, ever have any idea that they're there.
Right. Now, do you think that there's kind of akin to, let's say, Paul Hellyer? He's in the disclosure hearings, he went up and decided that was the forum to tell the senators and stuff that not only are we being visited, but we've been visited by several different races, which I think was kind of overkill for that forum. But do you believe that that's possible? Like this is some kind of interstellar 7-Eleven, and they're just kind of swinging through here? Or what do you think?
I would like to think that probably if they're more advanced than us, they'd probably take their children to the Van Allen radiation belts. They would fire the camera up and they would say, right, this is how you don't go about running a planet. And then you go home again,
Yeah, no doubt.
It's school buses swinging by. And kids, over here, you'll see coal burning.
And over here, they're melting nuclear rods over there in that reactor.
Yeah, exactly.
That's interesting, though, isn't it? How there's so many sightings around the nuclear testing, nuclear facilities. There's obviously something there. It's almost as if they're coming down to make sure we haven't started playing with the matches,
Yeah. Well, there are those people that have said that was one of the things that really put us on the interstellar map was the fact that we detonated, nuclear weapons in World War II. And it stands to reason, I guess, because, I'm sure the energetic impact of that probably projected into, all of known space. I don't know. Right. Maybe they're just becoming aware of it or whatever. I'm not sure how the time-space thing works. Maybe they got sensors all over so they can pick that stuff up real quick. I don't know. But it stands to reason that, wielding that kind of power and our willingness, or at least I wouldn't say willingness, but I would say ability to use it for those ends, I suppose could be unnerving for anybody that would be watching what's going on here.
We're not ready to go intergalactic. We can't even get along with our own species,
Yeah.
The color of our skin, our genders, anything. We find so many ways to divide ourselves, and we invent so many really exotic ways to take each other out. Why on earth would they allow us out there into the bigger universe to play with people,
It's like that's letting a virus go.
That's and that's a very good point. It's like maybe they're here making sure we don't get out. Maybe it is indeed a prison planet.
I have thought that at times, a lot of people say that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Who knows, Who knows? I mean, this might sound a bit out there, but I don't think we are we naturally formed here. I think there was some kind of intervention, call it genetic modification, or somebody came down here and started tinkering with things. That's my own belief,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's I can see the merit in that. Definitely. I've pondered that very same thing. And you've heard of Lloyd Pye, right?
I certainly have. Yes.
Yes. And his speech that's out there on the internet is called, well, the one that I'm familiar with, Everything You Know Is Wrong. I thought that was absolutely brilliant. I mean, it tied in so many things together and created a narrative that made sense to me when you're, discussing the thing of like the Anunnaki and the Chariot of the Gods and all that work that has come forward in the ancient Sumeria and how maybe this could all have been formed. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm not telling you that this is what it is or isn't. I mean, I just find it incredibly interesting and plausible. I don't pretend to know, but his narrative was to me, seemed real spot on.
And it made sense. It was plainly said. It wasn't a whole bunch of scientific hyperbole, so.
No, it does make sense. It really does. And whether it was the Anunnaki, whether it was something else, I do think we got a leg up. I think something happened. They maybe took a look at the Neanderthals and thought, yeah, we can just do a bit tweaking here, bit tweaking there. And think about it, we get sore backs and things, and it's almost like we're not even native to this planet at times,
Yeah, well, if you look at the natural order things, and this is something I talk about a lot, and especially in terms of like comparing us to the natural world around us. I mean, we're slow, we don't swim well, we're not physically impressive, and compared with the natural world around us. So it seems like the same thing to me. Like, everything else that has developed here is exceptionally suited for it. They can, either run really fast, or they're incredibly strong, or they can climb and they can swim, or something. They're just suited to the environment. And then there's us that have to carve out places for ourselves, put up walls, make it warmer, make it colder, put water in, everything about us is we have to design our environment to fit us. And it seems to me that stands to reason. At least it's worth considering that, we maybe aren't from here. I don't know.
You think about it, I mean, even our local star, us pasty faces here, I mean, we burn. We literally burn on a hot day. Do you know what I mean? Our skin isn't even taking the local star's temperature. So I don't know of any animals out there that suffer from like sunburn or things like that. So I don't know. I really don't know. I just, it's, you could talk about this until the cows come home, and would we be any nearer the answer? But this is what is so exciting about these mysteries, right? Talking about them, exploring them. There's no right or wrong answer. Mm-hmm. I just find it fascinating. I really do.
Yeah, me too. And that's what I love is, whenever someone like yourself comes on the show and you have such a diverse knowledge in so many areas, it's fun to just pick your brain and to see what you think and what is your feeling on this, that, or the other thing. And so I'm really enjoying this because it's really cool just to hear your thoughts and to hear what things you've considered or what things you think are ridiculous. And so I hope you don't mind that you're kind of on the hot seat, but I just really love
came
this.
On our show.
This is different. This is really different for me. I've been on a couple of shows, Clyde Lewis, and it's quite daunting when I think about it. But then as soon as we get into it, it's all the good stuff we enjoy talking about. I could talk about this with you guys on or off air. Yeah. It'd be fascinating. So it doesn't feel like being on a show. It just feels like hanging with a couple of friends,
That's what the portal is.
Yeah,
it's just
buddy.
a discussion. I think that there's so much to understand, and of course we're never going to unpack it all throughout, even though the full history of these shows. But I think that one thing the paranormal has taught me through the course of doing this show is that you have to keep an open mind. Closed paradigms don't fare very well against all of these various things that we encounter either through the shows or in reality.
A lot of the stuff we talk about, there's literally no way of proving or disproving anyone's claim. So you really do have to keep that open mind about everything. Mm-hmm. And that way, any new information that comes along as well, you're not going to get caught cold by it. Right. You're ready for some information that might absolutely rubbish everything that you'd held true previously. So you do have to maintain that open mind, and you have to be very respectful of others' opinions, even if it doesn't quite gel with yours.
Right.
It's their opinion. That's their view on something. And even if you show two people the exact same event, and then you get them to describe it later, those two events are going to sound completely different, but they're true to each person.
Yes.
But they're describing that same thing. It's how you interpret it,
Right.
Mm-hmm. So in the course of doing your show, in terms of the paranormal, what is your favorite paranormal topic to discuss? Do you have one?
I don't think I have one in particular.
Okay.
No, I don't think I've got one. No, I think I would be doing everything else a disservice if I elevated one to like my favorite. So no, I enjoy anything,
Now, you had mentioned earlier that you had your family at least had experiences in that home, but how about you? What other experiences have you had?
Well, nursing college. I went to join the army as a nurse. I better explain that. People think, Kevin, nursing college? They didn't train nurses at the time. So I went to Aberdeen, one of the big cities here. I lasted a year there because there was like 300 50 odd rooms in the nurses' home where I was, where I had accommodation. Mm-hmm. There was 8 guys in that place, and 5 of them were homosexual. So I had a year of drunken debauchery, and if I hadn't dropped out, who knows what would have happened to me. So I went back to the careers office and I said, "Listen, get me into the army." But while I was in nursing college, we done the Ouija board a couple of times. We had something that would come through, and maybe it would have a message for me a couple of times. But I would say my first real, true kind of interaction with the woo, it all came after being at Aleister Crowley's Boleskine house.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's where it all kind of kicked off for me. And we went there, myself, my brother, and his friend. Anne was with me as well, my partner. She got up to the door of the place and she left. It was just after there'd been an actual fire there.
Right.
Oh.
And we went in, and it was quite surreal. I've got video of it on YouTube, but you go into the building, and it was literally raised to the ground in segments. But then you come to a doorway. And beyond the doorway, there was not even smoke damage on any of the kind of wallpaper or anything. And there was 2 rooms, and the front room, unbeknown to me at the time, this was where Aleister Crowley done his Abramelin working, and it was a spell to conjure up 12 dukes from hell or something magical and mystical like this. Long story short, he had to leave. He had to go away on business for the Golden Dawn, and he'd never closed the portal.
Oh, Jesus.
So there's always been activity around there. Myself, my brother, and the other guy, we were in there, and good stones flying about. We had people whispering in our ears. We got out of there, but within 6 months of us being there, and I don't know if this is connected or not, but I had 2 heart attacks.
Oh.
My brother, he had stuff happening to him. The other guy, he had stuff happening to him as well. And not just us, but there was other groups of people had gone there. And it was as if once you'd been there, bad luck followed, you know?
Sure.
And then one time, walking just through to make a cup of tea. This was after the Crowley thing. And I walked past the toilet, and the toilet's on my right-hand side, so you just got peripheral vision. And I thought my son had left the toilet door open. I was like, going to close the toilet door. And then he shouted back to me, only he wasn't in the toilet. He was in his bedroom. So I had seen some kind of figure. It was definitely a figure in the toilet. Call it a shadow person, call it what you will.
Sure.
That's the one kind of thing that really freaked me out.
Yeah.
To the point where I got Bill Bean involved. we done a blessing and I got deliverance done. And I don't know, it really freaked me out, guys. But that Boleskine house, that is a place that, I hate to say this, but it's pure evil.
Sure.
It just is pure evil. And to this day, now it's been renovated and turned into a school of Crowley. That's another story altogether. But I mean, there's still satanic occult groups go up there and practice, because you can tell from the graffiti, some of the kind of inverted pentagrams, all the kind of things you can think about. People go there because they know it's almost like a tourist attraction for anyone into the occult.
Wow.
So to this day, it's still fully charged, I think. And what's even worse, this school of Crowley, the spiritual retreat, as they call it, they're actually saying that they'll open their doors to the local people in the area so that they can come and enjoy the workings and be taught Thelema.
Oh.
And that's the magic, the religion, whatever you want to call Aleister Crowley's kind of thing. So I don't really know what that's going to do to that area up there. I'm expecting more paranormal activity to start occurring because it's crazy, dudes. I can't even explain what it feels like. It goes beyond haunted house. It really does.
Yeah, that's probably a portal, like you said, right to hell or something.
Yeah, it's well, he actually had to put sand round his house when he was doing the working. And the reason for the sand around the house was that was the only way that you could actually gauge how well the working was going, because allegedly footprints would be left in the sand. Oh. And that was how he could tell how many of these things he had conjured, etc., etc. And even in his own writings, he says he got a couple of people to come and stay with him at the time. And they only lasted about a week at the most, and then they fled. They got out of there. Yeah. So it's bad news.
Break time.
Oh, that's the bell, ladies and gentlemen.
Nice
yeah, perfect. That couldn't have been more professional. That was nice. We're going to go to break, ladies and gentlemen. We will be right back with Kev Baker and the Paranormal Portal. Don't go away.
Play their games. Everybody loves to place their bets. They don't understand the price I paid. They don't care to comprehend. Trace their lines upon my body, dripping scars across my heart. Raging anger boils inside me as their lies keep falling apart. With my silence, I am not a stupid boy. No more breaking me with kindness, just you dance upon my joy. Leading me with empty promise, you're just another fucking mess. Taking off the slice of my sanity, just make sure that you're well fed.
Caroline is not like those she's with. They're attracted to the one thing about her that is different from themselves. Her life force. It is very strong. It gives off its own illumination. It is a light that implies life and memory of love and home and earthly pleasures. Something they desperately desire, but can't have anymore. Right now, she's the closest thing to that.
Poltergeist are usually associated with an individual. Hauntings seem to be connected with an area. A house, usually.
Poltergeist disturbances are of fairly short duration, perhaps a couple of months. Hauntings can go on for years.
And ladies and gentlemen, hour number 2 is upon us here on the Paranormal Portal. We, Don and I, are joined tonight by Mr. Kev Baker of the Kev Baker Show, who's joining us tonight to discuss all things woo. And woo. So, Kev, how's it going for you so far, brother?
The quickest hour ever. I thought my show moved fast, but wow. This is like breakneck speed. I'm telling you, time definitely goes differently in the portal, guys.
It is a time-space anomaly. We're pretty sure about it. We don't know what to do about it, but we're on it. We're just surfing the
Don't
waves.
do anything about it. It's perfect, just as it is.
It just feels like we just turn on the lights and then it's time to go, you know? But we've been having a great discussion so far, and okay, yeah. Shayna, give me an email at paranormalportalradio@gmail.com, and I'll get in touch with you, and we'll discuss that further. It'll be nice right behind Don.
No.
Someone's got a possibly haunted doll.
No.
And I thought it'd look nice here in the studio.
Oh, haunted dolls. Not good.
Thank
Did you hear
you.
that story I was talking about yesterday,
Yes.
guys? And it's the doll in Texas, the Elsa doll.
Yes.
They tried to throw it away because it started singing in Spanish, and they put it in the garbage can. It went away with a garbage truck, and then a couple of days later, they're going into a drawer just to get something, you know, just going about their daily business, and what's sitting there but the same doll. And it was the same doll because the eyes had been coloured in by the child. So they went to throw it away again, and just as I had to laugh. She said, I decided to mail it to a friend. Well, that's a nice friend, isn't it? Mailing you a haunted doll. But when she was trying to wrap it up, all she could hear was the doll laughing when she was putting it in the wrapping. There's something about dolls. I find them highly, highly sinister, guys. I don't know what it is.
So do I.
They are. Yeah, there's no question about it. They're
we have a
freaky.
friend. He's got like 10 or 12 haunted dolls supposedly, and I can't imagine collecting consciously collecting haunted dolls. And the worst dolls of them all are clown dolls. Ooh.
Don's got a thing
Clowns
for dolls.
don't do clowns. Oh, no. There's something sinister about them as well.
And mimes are even worse.
Yes. Oh, thank you. Exactly, dude. They creep me right out.
Finally, somebody who gets it.
Don's
What's wrong with these people?
I
What
don't know.
possesses somebody? Well, maybe something does possess something to become a mime. That is just the weirdest thing ever.
I see. I knew I liked Kev Baker for a reason.
Now, see, I gotta say, I've always found those to be very entertaining. You know, the old invisible wall pulling the rope thing. I think it's pretty cool. But I know that mimes pretty universally are not appreciated like maybe they once were.
No.
But it is a strange thing. I will say that, someone walking up to me being all weird and looking into my, right up close and personal, playing like they're in a wall would get a little old. But, at a distance, I think it's kind of neat. But
yeah, a distance of like 5 miles. You can just get them in the scope.
Or on TV, in the scope. Don's about
in a
that.
different country. That's where they can be.
Go ahead and keep them in Paris. That's fine
Yeah,
with me.
exactly.
Well, they got a lot of other stuff going on in Paris, so they might as well have mimes too. But craziness. Dolls, I got to tell you, there's a real big trend. And we were talking just the other day. I was in the chat room during your show, and you were talking about Dybbuk boxes and haunted dolls. And that was a great episode, by the way. I thought that was brilliant. Those kind of stories are bizarre. We covered a story kind of similar to that recently, where this, let's see, it was her uncle that gave her a doll, this girl a doll, or it was a deceased grandparent or grandparent. Well, he left this girl a doll, and it turns out the doll was all spooky and creepy like that too. So she kept having bad feelings and having bad nightmares. The doll would turn its head, do weird stuff, and she just wanted done with it. And so she gave the doll to her friend, and her friend had it because she thought, well, no, it's fine. It was an antique doll. It was kind of a cool doll, I guess. But she wanted it, and she knew that it was having problems at that other house. She took it into her house, had it, and had the same problems start happening, the bad dreams and seeing things and just really uncomfortable feelings. So apparently that girl's mom was driving down the road and she threw it out the window, in the country there. And then they had a sleepover at their other friend's house, and sitting on the mantle was that same doll. And they're like, where'd you get it? She goes, my mom found it on the road. And
oh, no way.
So this doll kept finding its way back through, and it seems innocent enough, like not really active, like Chucky kind of stuff. But you got to think there's got to be an intelligence behind that, because what are the odds, that doll would keep re-showing up and stuff. So I guess finally that girl had problems with it too, and they just ended up burning it and into a crisp. And so
burn it with fire.
Kill it with fire.
It's like you said to me, Brent, originally, these things, they weren't exactly toys, right?
No.
There's a case to be made that they were a vehicle, a host for some kind of spirit, some kind of entity. And
Yep.
And that just makes it 10 times worse when you start to figure in all that stuff,
Yeah, it does. They were originally used as vessels for the dead. Yeah. They weren't children's toys initially. But the children's toys, I think kind of like the Amish. The Amish won't allow faces on their dolls because they believe that with a face, they are prone to become inhabited by evil spirits or demons or whatever. So they won't allow faces on their dolls. So dolls are kind of a creepy thing. They are. And I think pretty much everybody has looked at dolls, a doll, maybe some doll, at one time or another, and thought, is that thing really looking at me? Because, there's dolls, and then there's the creepy kind of dolls that they seem to be watching you. And I really think that there might be something to that.
Yes.
That they really might be watching you.
It's the older kind of, the German-made ones, very well made, China, porcelain things, and when it gets older, the paint starts cracking, and like you say, the eyes, it's like the eyes follow you. And I don't know if you'll be able to show this on the screen, but I'll drop it in the Skype. This is my mum's creepy doll.
Oh my God.
There you go. That's Chuckles.
Oh, there it is. It's up on the screen.
My.
Sure. There it is.
There you go.
Yeah, that cherub face is just so unassuming.
I think if I try to pull it, is there two pictures or?
Yeah, there's two. Yeah.
Okay. It might go under the. There it is. Oh, there's another.
There
one.
it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Whoops! It disappeared on me. I'm trying to pull it up. How do I open this? If I open it, it's probably going to go back on the TV here. So.
Well,
there you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Oh, there it was. Sorry. There it is, ladies and gentlemen. There's that doll. Oof. Now, she had issues with this doll?
She knitted it a cap and booties. Apparently not.
Yep. My mom used to play with us when she was a kid, and I used to say, did it not in any way freak you out? No, Chuckles is lovely. Oh, keep Chuckles away.
Now, do you have a general phobia against dolls?
Now that I come to think of it, perhaps I do. Maybe I do, yeah.
I'm just curious because I mean, if it's
Maybe
a doll,
a doll done something bad to me when I was a child or something. I don't know.
Oh my!
you watch Chucky, that'll kill anybody's love of dolls quick. That movie was freaky. Child's Play, was that Child's Play?
Yes.
Yeah. What a horrible thing. But have you seen that video that's online, Kev, of the guy that got allegedly a haunted doll, and he put a time lapse on it.
Mm-hmm.
He put a time lapse camera on it and put it in a chair. And over the period of like 12 hours, you see the thing moving and looking around and doing stuff. And I know that you kind of got to take these things with a grain of salt when you find them online, because there's just so many people just thinking it's great to try to pull shenanigans and stuff. But if that's legitimate, and it looks like indeed it is a time lapse, if that is legitimate, then that is really, really creepy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, even if it is like faked up, I mean, it would still freak me out. Just seeing that would freak me.
Yeah, that's it for sure. Now, I've got to ask you this, because you of course are over in the UK, in Scotland there, and there are quite a few people over there, and I know you totally love the cryptids and stuff as well. But do you believe the UK has cryptids there? What is your opinion of that in terms of, now we had the IBRO on, the Irish Bigfoot Research Organization,
right.
and great guys, and they had some pretty compelling evidence and some really apparently very powerful firsthand experiences, but they have apparently seen woodwose and Bigfoot. They said there's 2 types in Ireland there. Have you heard this? Do you believe it's possible that they're in Scotland as well? And what's your take on that?
Absolutely. And I had a guest on, and it's so rude, I can't remember her name. It was a few years ago now. But I think the given name in the UK, on the mainland anyway, not Ireland, is the Wild Man.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
And she had a lot of photographs of what could be, the kind of evidence that you were looking for, Brent, when you went searching, kind of trees pulled down, kind of hides, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I keep a very open mind to that. But in Scotland in particular, we've got our national animal. We pay homage to something called the Kelpie.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that is a water spirit. And it's said to be a shape-shifting water spirit. It can come in the form of a horse. And in one of our small towns outside Glasgow called Falkirk, we've got giant statues, 2 big kelpies, the big heads of the kelpie.
Wow.
And we've even got like unicorns and things on some of our flags, stuff like that. But that's a kind of paying homage to the kelpie. Now, the interesting thing about the kelpie is they're associated with water. Mm-hmm. And, of course, Loch Ness with Nessie, that definitely ticks a lot of the Kelpie boxes, and I'll tell you why. It's actually a family story.
Okay.
It was from back just around World War II time, and I think it was either grandfather or somebody anyway, and they were a group of them, and they were cycling to work, and it was a cold morning, kind of fog coming across the road, and you kind of picture it, you've got the loch down on the right-hand side of you, and then up to the left, it's all hillside. So they're cycling away to work, wherever they were going, and this was just outside of Fort Augustus, at a place called Inchnacardick Hotel, and there's a bay of Loch Ness just there. They claim to have seen the most weird, inexplicable thing ever. And what they said they seen was what appeared to be some kind of horse coming down from the left-hand side, down the hillside. And to make it even more random and bizarre, there was a person on the back of the horse, and the best way they could describe it, although they said that it wasn't definitively this, they said it was like a Red Indian chief, some kind of headdress on.
Mm-hmm.
And the horse just walks right out in front of them with this individual on the back of it, crosses slowly in front of them, and then starts to go down the shore into the water and just submerged and gone.
Wow. Oh my God.
Now, the reason that's really compelling is because the Kelpie, being a shapeshifter, there is stories of it appearing in many, many different forms and guises. And there's been people that have reported seeing camel-like creatures with the humps actually walking on the land near Loch Ness. And of course, the humps, that ties in with some of the reports of what you get with Nessie.
Right.
And there's so many different reports of like what Nessie allegedly looks like. The humps, the long neck. I think everyone would probably draw that if you told them to draw Nessie. But then my mum and my stepdad, now they can't tell you definitively that this was the monster, but they say they seen something that was just below the surface, but it was massive.
Wow.
And the closest thing they could compare it to, because they couldn't see it definitively, but you could see the water moving, would have been something akin to a whale.
Jeez.
And there's a lot of reports where they see something. There's no humps, there's no neck, and it's just this large kind of creature. And then you've got all the other various descriptions as well.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's be quite frank here. Not all of these reports are going to be legitimate.
Sure.
Some of them are going to be tall stories. However, you know that one with my family member back around the time of the 40s?
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing to be gained by making up stories like that at that time. In fact, probably more to lose than to gain, i.e. your reputation. People think you're going mad. So I don't know. I put a lot of credence in the fact that I don't think the Loch Ness Monster is one particular thing, if that makes sense.
Sure, it does. Of course, I'm sure you're familiar with that study that was done recently, and the DNA tracking study. What are your thoughts on that?
I find it really interesting because they said they found eel DNA. Okay. And I can tell you from my own personal experience, that doesn't surprise me because there's the Caledonian Canal, and it's a series of lock gates, and boats go travelling down there, and it lets them into Loch Ness. And as a young guy, as a kid, we would go fishing. We'd throw our fishing rods in off the side of the loch, and you'd put the worm on, and 9 times out of 10, you'd get a pike. But now and again, you'd get these massive eels. So there is definitely lots of eels in and around Loch Ness. So it doesn't surprise me that they actually came up with eel DNA. But how they can make the leap and the jump to say, well, that's the Nessie, when there's eels in the water anyway, it's a bit of a stretch, if you ask me.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. No, I think eel DNA might have turned up from, you know what? The eels.
No way.
I know, Don. I know. And there's me. I haven't been to university or anything. So who am I to question these experts?
Maybe it came from the eels.
It's crazy, right? Yeah. But yeah, that was a very interesting study. They kept us waiting for nearly a year for the results, and then they hit us with eels.
They hit you with eels. How big do eels get? Are they?
They can get big.
Well, sure they can, but are they? I mean, some of the reports coming out of there are significant. Now, what your parents saw doesn't sound like an eel to me.
No, exactly.
So,
and then you've got there used to be the St. Benedictine Abbey there. And to give it some history, I mean, you could say that the very first story about the Loch Ness Monster could well have been a false cryptid, call it a false flag, if you may, because it was by St. Columba back in the 5 AD, and it was when they were spreading the word of the good book. And of course, St. Columba told the locals that there was a beast from hell within the waters, and if they didn't take on Christianity and start reading the Bible and things, bad things would happen to them. So that's where the story actually first came out of. Wow. Yeah.
Wow. So I guess that definitely undermines the claim that the Loch Ness Monster was introduced by Crowley when he failed the Abramelin.
You see, there's a case to be made that after Crowley had done what he'd done, and he bought that property in 1899, and after that, and it's hard to tell because obviously from 1899 onwards, more press, more newspapers, more media, things like that. Maybe it was easier to get more sightings out there. But you know what? There were sightings by genuine people long before Aleister Crowley had done anything up there.
Sure.
And Aleister Crowley himself, it's his own writings. Again, he talks about the legend of the monster in the loch. And the Abram Ellen working that he was doing, it had to be a specific location. It had to be a property near a large body of water. It had to have a north-facing window. There was a whole heap of things that this property had to kind of tick the boxes. And it makes me wonder, did he choose there because of the ley lines and the paranormal activity anyway?
Sure.
Or did he increase what was going on there? I don't really know. But like I say, it's just steeped in weird stories, weird happenings. It's kind of strange.
It really is. And you know, the thing that I think is amazing as well, and it's something that we don't have over here in the US, is that long standing history
yeah.
you know, of, and now granted, there was a lot going on here way back into antiquity with the First Nations and stuff, and even back beyond that, there are legends of things happening here in the US, but you have a history, a cataloged history that goes back hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, and I find that absolutely amazing. And you know, you could probably throw a stone anywhere over there and hit someplace haunted, you know?
Yeah, you're right. And there's a megalithic kind of site. It's the Picts. The Pictish people had built a site near Inverness. It's called Clava Cairns. I went up there the last time I was home, and they say it's a burial site for an important chief at the time. And I don't know, but I immediately walked into this place, and there's a massive stone circle. And then around the stone, it's like a cairn. It's built up all the stones, and there's a passageway that leads into the middle of it. But around that kind of monument is 12 big, giant stones. And I'm looking at the place going, I don't think this is a burial chamber. I think this is some kind of calendar.
Right.
Oh,
And then I was reading up on it later, after the fact, when I got home. And it actually says no bodies have ever been found in this location. And some people suspect maybe it was something to do with something ceremonial with calendars, but we can't quite prove that. I'm thinking, come on, 12 big stones round a circle. And it just so happens that the passageway I was describing, you guessed it, on the summer solstice, the sun goes right down that.
Oh,
So
sure.
I have no idea, but that place as well, we went back there at night. We done a spirit box, a ghost box, but it was one on the phone. It was really kind of crappy, to be honest with you.
Oh.
But one strange thing did happen when we were there, and it was, can you imagine if at night sound travels, you know?
Yeah.
And it was the sound of people working stones.
Oh, wow.
You know,
Ooh.
stone on stone.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like immediately around us. It was kind of in the distance. And we all kind of got a fright out of it. And we started heading back to the car, and we came up with various explanations as to what it could be, as opposed to saying, you know, that's something very weird. And about 5 miles away, when we started to kind of compose ourselves, we're like, you know, we should have stayed there. That was something pretty weird going on. I think by that time, we'd all kind of, our bottle had dropped. Absolutely.
I don't blame you, but I think that those sites are amazing. Now I've been to Salisbury and seen Stonehenge.
Yeah.
But I guess I was pretty disappointed in the fact that they corral you such a distance away. It would have been neat to get up close and, you know, maybe get a vibe of what the stones were like. But it was still exciting to be there and to be in that place. But you know, the mystery surrounding those megalithic sites over there are incredible. But are you aware that there are megalithic sites here in the U.S. as well?
Oh, yeah. I've had L.A. Marzulli on. He talks about the serpent mound and things like that. So, yeah.
Yeah. And it just seems these ancient peoples really were way ahead of the game. They really had this stuff dialed in. And I think that, you know, I guess the big tragedy is how much has been lost, and is there these reboots that happen with our global population, like because we get to the artifacts out of time kind of stuff that I love covering on the show. We got screws embedded in rocks and a hammer embedded in stone in Texas. The 300 million year old stone has a iron handle or iron head and wooden handle turning to charcoal coming out of it, and there's just this whole history that we don't know. But it seems to me that something amazing is going on. And I guess we can probably get into it on the other side, because we are literally 30 seconds away from the last break of the night, Kev.
Wow. It's been fast. It's been fun, guys. It has.
Yeah, it's a great time, man. It's great to be able to sit back and talk with you. But ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening on TFR iHeart, tune in and TalkStream Live. Stick around after the show, because Paisley Wild will be coming up next with the Spaces Between. Her show will be coming up next. And then following her is our very own Duke Sullivan. World Bigfoot Radio will be coming up. And with Paisley, if you want to watch it on TFR, you're certainly welcome to. Otherwise, she streams live on her YouTube channel. And when the Duke comes up later, you can go into the chat room and hang out with Duke, and he'll sit and talk with you about the episode you're listening to and give you a lot of background and insight. It's really a cool experience. So that you can find at tfrlive.com/chat. But we will be right back for the last half hour of the portal. Don't go away. Ladies and gentlemen, we're back. Last half hour is now upon us, and it's just flown by, which is a great measure of great conversation,
Yes.
which just speaks to the quality of what's happening right here on the show. Special thanks to Mr. Kev Baker for coming on the show with us tonight.
There.
Right here.
Guys, honestly, this has been an honor. You know, Brent, you see me in the chat room listening to your show, usually after I do my show at nights and things. So to be on here, honestly, guys, it's made my day. It's been brilliant. It's been better than I even thought.
You know, it's nice to hear you say that, because we know you've been on, so much. You've been on this thing for YouTube for 15 years, and you've got your you've got your following with you, and it's our honor to have you on, because you're one of those that have that's got the solid history behind them, and it just validates us. You validate us, sir.
We're just three normal dudes chasing the woo. That's what it is.
True.
That's what makes the magic, guys. And the audience, I mean, your chat room here as well, such great people. I think we're all kind of focused on these weird and wonderful mysteries out there, right?
Yep.
Absolutely. It's a journey I don't think we'll ever finish, but we'll have a hell of a time getting there. So wherever we end up. But ladies and gentlemen, if you want to call in, we'll open up for the phone calls. If you got a question you want to ask Mr. Kev, again, feel free to do that. 720-923-0500. Again, 720-923-0500, or look above my head and you'll see the number there if you're looking on your YouTube screen. If you're on YouTube, you can see the number at all times on the tile. But yeah, if you want to call in, now's the time to do it. We have to talk about the Dogman, Kev.
Oh, yes, the Dogman. I mean, what's going on with the Dogman? There's something about the Dogman that intrigues me. I don't know what it is, but there's just something pulls me in there. Now, I don't know a heck of a lot about the Dogman, but I know that a lot of people keep coming to me and asking, will you do a Dogman show? Do a Dogman show, Kev. I've never done the Dogman show, and I've been in touch with, is it Linda Godfrey?
Yeah, she's been on the show.
Yeah, it fell through before Christmas because she was busy, but I think she's kind of regarded as one of the experts when it comes to the Dogman. And, that's what I tried to do, guys. I tried to get the best person that covers topics to give their info to the audience, because I'm just like a member of the audience. I'm looking for answers myself. It's not, I know nothing. So, I try and get the best info from people. But the Dogman, what do you make of the Dogman, Brent?
It's a curious one to me, because I have to admit, when I started doing the show, I thought I had this all real dialed in. But after doing the show and hearing all of the firsthand encounters, the things that I've researched, I'm perplexed as hell about it. I don't know what's going on with this thing. I do believe that they're probably out there, because there's just so many people that have come face to face with them. The same thing as the Bigfoot thing. And there does seem to be enough physical difference between a Bigfoot and what these Dogmen are described as, that it doesn't seem like it's just simply mistaken identification. Like they're the reverse knees, much like a dog's leg. Right. That is certainly a feature that is most widely reported. I've heard the other reports too of the knees being normal, but I think that those might be missing, misidentifications. But when the knees are going backwards, you get these keened features, the wolf-like ears, the elongated snout, people describing what they've bumped into as being just like the werewolves in the underworld movies. And most of, a lot of these sightings are absolutely up close and personal. So it doesn't seem to be just something that people are going to, it kind of looked like this or that. I mean, they've got it tattooed in their retinas probably, because it's just one of those things you can't unsee. So I don't know where they came from, what their story is, but I think the compelling thing, Kev, to me is the history that surrounds these dog-like people or wolf-like people. There's the cynocephaly. There's the the Anubis reference in Egyptian lore. Now I don't know if Egyptian representations are more figurative or what, or if there were these dog people walking around taking care of dead things. I don't know. Saint Christopher of the Catholic Church was apparently a dog-headed saint. So there is a historical precedent for dog-like people to be around. So what are they? Where have they gone? Where do they hide? I don't know.
Why do we care?
Well, we care because people are bumping into them. You know, I mean, people want to know what's out there. Yeah, I mean,
I think these things are actually all around us. Be it Bigfoot, be it the Dogman, be it the Mothman, or and it's like David Icke. He explains it best. You know, it's like a TV. We only see one channel, spectrum of light that we can see in. And for whatever reason, at times, these things pop into our field of vision. But I think they're actually out there all the time.
yeah.
You could be walking through the woods, there could be Bigfoot there could be anything, but because of whatever the circumstances is, whatever the conditions, it's not right, you're unaware of it. Maybe it's totally unaware of you as well. But then sometimes that veil comes down and you catch a glimpse. And like you say, once you see that, you ain't unseen it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just think it's incredibly, the encounters with dogmen are so poignant. They're so supercharged. Like Bigfoot encounters are, I mean, they're larger than life, and that's really unnerving, and people really struggle to move past it. But dogmen encounters are like so much more. They seem much more aggressive normally. You don't hear a whole lot of dogman encounters that are like, oh, hey, I'm just going to keep walking here. You know, generally they're like I said before, they can be really up close and personal, like looking through a bush right at you, and you might be just feet away, and it's growling and, you know, showing its teeth and stuff. And I don't know. I mean, the whole concept, I got to admit, is really incredibly unnerving. But I think you're right. I think that we aren't tuned to the entirety of reality. We're just tuned to a spectrum of it, whether it's even an audio spectrum or a visual spectrum. We are super hyper tuned to this one part of it, but there's a whole bunch of things that lie beyond that. Now, are they able to shift in and out of that, or how do they do that? I don't know. But I think
a cornucopia of things out there. But you know, you asked me earlier on what's my favorite.
Yeah.
I think, you know, having had a think about it, I think one of the things that both intrigues me and worries me the most are the reports of the black-eyed children.
Oh my God, no.
Don,
man, they're bad. That's bad news. That.
They are bad news.
Don almost needed therapy after our first show talking about them.
Yeah.
There's almost something vampiric to them.
Yes.
And what I mean is, you know, they come to the door, they ask to come in, and then they're almost insistent that you invite them in, or they want a lift somewhere. And goodness only knows what happens if you open the door and take them into your car or let them into your house. I just don't know. And I don't know how true this is, because I've only read about it one time. And it was a report of two black-eyed children, and just behind them, a black-eyed mother and father, it would have appeared.
Oh.
And yeah, it was the first time I'd ever heard of that, and that's why I say possibly, you know, it might be a tall story.
Yeah.
But it only takes one account of one black-eyed kid to make it something really, really scary.
Yeah.
And I'm sure at least one of these stories we've had, I would have to believe that people aren't just making this up, you know?
Right. And there are, I mean, it's not a real common kind of occurrence, but it does happen, and it's happened to a lot of various people. So the thing that I find curious, and I'm going to try to remember exactly what I was going to say, but it's God, I just lost it. It just went out of my head. But I was going to talk about the black-eyed kids, and what was I going to say? Oh, it was right on my tip of my tongue. You know, I think that I remember what it was. Okay, so you've got things like the rake, and you've got things like the black-eyed kids,
right?
And you got things like Slender Man. Now, I think for those things, a lot of people like to say, "Oh, that's just from Reddit," or that's just some urban myth that came from here. But here's the thing: I think the terms are new that describe these things.
Right.
But I think the phenomena is actually very, very old.
Right.
we with the black-eyed kids, as you mentioned, the needing permission to come in, they're the black eyes, they seem to disappear into nowhere, come out of nowhere, and they have a timeless kind of presence to them, even though they look like children. People that talk to them, notice that they don't sound like kids at all,
right?
And they're very direct and demanding, and they seem to compel people,
right,
to do things.
Like
which sounds
Claudia from the Interview with the Vampire movies,
right?
She's
so people
very
are
adult.
People are compelled to do these things, that they can't cross the threshold without being invited, that the people that have let them in have ended up becoming extraordinarily sick with blood sepsis and weird infections and stuff, which, is kind of like if
with a brain tumor.
A brain tumor that showed up. Which would kind of mimic the vampire lore of once a vampire bites you, you become ill, and you're having trouble, maybe dying. So a lot of this thing seems to be what became the vampire lore. But people say, oh, it's a new thing. It's just somebody made that up. But maybe it's not. Maybe it's been around forever, and we just found a new word for it.
Right.
You think about the Bigfoots, for instance, Kev. There's Bigfoot, Sasquatch, and we all know now that means all of these things that are happening around the world. But back in the day, there were these regional stories of like Momo, the Grassman, the skunk ape, the wild men of the southern U.S., wood boogers and boogers, and all of these regional terms that they stayed regional until the unifying term came along.
Right.
Which was Bigfoot or Sasquatch. Then all of a sudden people went, oh, wait, we got those here, but we call them this. And so all of a sudden it became a huge phenomena. And the rake, and I got to credit Duke for this one. I was like, talking with Duke one time. I'm like, Duke, what do you think of this rake thing? I mean, is it, is there any historical precedent for it? And he goes, yeah, it's like a ghoul.
A ghoul, yeah.
The ghouls that are referenced from way back when sound very much like a rake. And so my hat's off to Duke for that, because he really connected the dots for me on that one. But I think that people like to discard it as this new phenomena, but these stories are actually old as time.
How much do you think we play into all of this? And you mentioned Slender Man there. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that literally was something that came from a competition, creepypasta.
Oh, sure.
But then it really did take on a life of its own.
Right.
And this takes you into the kind of world of tulpa, mancy.
Yes, exactly.
Tulpas, thought forms. And maybe, I've been looking a lot at how powerful we are, our consciousness lately. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how powerful we are, but maybe we can co-create things. And when we believe these things are here, maybe we ourselves help bring them into being. It doesn't mean they're any less real, but we're feeding into that actual energy.
Right, exactly. No, I agree completely. I believe we very fundamentally manifest our reality, and so if something is believed, it becomes real. And you can take that figuratively, or you can take that very literally. But consider a person suffering from mental disorder. They may have absolute hallucinations, but to them, those hallucinations are absolutely real.
Right.
And they affect them in a very real way. And there's no differentiation for those people that they're not experiencing what they say they are, because they are, because they make it real. Now, that's in a microcosm kind of way, but I do believe that we can fundamentally create things as well. Like, we can create, I don't know. Can we create all of the parts of our day? I think we do. Maybe we do it in a macrocosmic kind of way, that we create our worlds, and that sounds kind of like tongue in cheek, and maybe like it belongs on a T-shirt. But I think that's very fundamentally true, and I think it's incredibly profound, but it gets overlooked that we create our realities. And
think of quantum. Until there's an observer, i.e. me or you, things are in a state of flux. They're neither here nor there, and they're both here and there at the same time. They're waves and they're particles at the same time. And our observation alone, it really does help to form a lot of the world around us.
Yes.
And nobody, even scientists will tell you the mind, it's like a black box. They might say they've mapped it and everything else, but it's the most mysterious and powerful thing in the world. And what is it? mean, a bag of cholesterol and water. And look at what we're able to do with it, guys, you know?
A bag of cholesterol and water. That was almost poetic. That was beautiful.
Put that on a t-shirt.
Did PewDiePie just jump into our chat?
I don't imagine, probably so. Maybe. I don't know.
Well, that's the name that came up.
Well, I don't know.
I would.
That would be something. That would be something if the Pewds showed up. But, you know, I do think, oh my God, we do have some calls. So let's get to what we can. I don't know if we'll be able to get to all of them because we have literally 10 minutes, but let's get to the first one. And this is area code 480. You're on the air.
Hi, this is Jess.
Hi, Jess.
Hi there.
Welcome. Yeah, this is Jessica Mink, the one you've been chatting with.
You're the one that likes. You're the one that likes Outlander, yeah.
Oh yes, awesome show. I had a question for you. I was wondering what you think about the Loch Ness Monster.
I think there's definitely something there, Jess. I don't know what it is. Again, I tend to go with the whole Scottish Kelpie, that shape-shifting water spirit. And it's not just Loch Ness, you know, there's a few lochs in Scotland that have allegedly some kind of cryptid creatures around them. I've never seen it myself.
Yeah, so do we in America, too.
Yeah, you've got Champ, Lake Champlain, I think, and I've never seen it myself.
And Tahoe Tessie in Lake Tahoe. Lake Tahoe, yeah.
I mean, I don't need to see it to believe it, though. I'm open-minded. I would like to think there's something in there. Yeah, definitely.
I'm a believer, too. I think there's some prehistoric stragglers out there.
That's a very common theory, that it's some kind of plesiosaur that maybe got caught up. Because Loch Ness was formed by a glacier. So there could have been something frozen in there when it thawed out. Possibly, I'm very open to that. I must admit, growing up, I did think it was more something kind of dinosaur, plesiosaurus. But who knows? I mean, maybe there's many things in there. There's parts of Loch Ness that go right back underneath the hills. And there's parts of Loch Ness that have never been mapped with sonar. Who knows? There's so much going on there. There's caverns underneath. So there's plenty of places where things could hide out.
It's deep.
Yeah, and
it
Scotland as well. Deep. We've got tunnels that run from Scotland all the way under Europe and go all the way to Turkey.
Wow.
So there's a subterranean kind of thing going on. I don't know. Somebody in the chat room asked me, do I think that the Sasquatch might be subterranean? I think there might be a lot of things underground that maybe more than the stuff we talk about. Maybe stuff we've never seen before. I'm open to it all. You know me, Jess.
Well, thanks for your call, Jess.
Some entities may be interdimensional.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
absolutely. Thank you, Jess, for calling in. It's great to hear from you.
I'm gonna get off the phone and I'm gonna let other people talk for a bit. Nice to talk to you.
Thank you, Jess.
Okay. Good night, Jess. Thanks for calling in.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Night, Jess.
All right. Good night. Let's go to our next caller, and this is area code 325. You're on the air.
Hey, Kev, Brett, Don.
Hey.
We were talking about the black-eyed children a little bit earlier.
Yes.
And in a town not far from where I live, Abilene, Texas, one of the reporters, I mean, this is a credible witness. He's an editorial managing editor there at the newspaper, and he had parked in this parking lot and gone into the movie theater, and when he came out, he was like one of the last ones to leave, and there were no other cars around, and he got in his car and was going to start it and looked out the window, and there was a young lady, and there were two teenagers, a boy and a girl, standing there, and they had on black clothes, and they had no faces except for just black holes where their eyes should have been.
Oh.
And he said that they spoke to him without moving a mouth, and they were telling him, "We want you to take us home." and he reached for he tried to reach for the locks, and he couldn't touch them. It was like he was paralyzed. I don't know if it was from fear or what, but anyway, he told them, "No, you cannot get in my car." And he said, "I'm sorry." And then he took off. He finally, snapped out of it.
Good.
And took off. And when he looked in his rearview mirror, he couldn't see anyone. But this is a credible witness, and he wrote it up. If you care to look in the Abilene Reporter News, he wrote it up in his editorial for everyone. And it's just an unheard of thing at that time when it happened.
Wow. That's intense.
That's really common with the black-eyed kids, though, isn't it? Like, they're looking for a lift, or they want into a car, and I would probably be frozen with fear if that happened to me.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, me too.
He said he couldn't, he had trouble, functioning physically, and he felt like they were trying to get in his head. That's just how he described it. And, you can look up that account if you want to. And
sure.
But, that's a pretty credible witness. Why would he damage his reputation by bringing something like that up? It affected him greatly. So I just thought you might want to hear about that incident.
See, yeah, I like ones like that, guys, where you've got this, and that is a credible witness. You could ruin your reputation talking about something like that, but it's obviously true to that person, or why would they go out on a limb and say that? I tell you.
They caught him when he was, they caught him when there was no one else around.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you, Kathy. I appreciate you calling.
You're welcome.
All right, my lady. Have a great night. Thanks again.
Bye-bye.
Okay, and we got one more call. We only got 3 minutes.
Wow.
But this is area code 701. You're on the air.
Hi, Paranormal Portal Naysay. Million-time caller, long-time listener.
Yes, sir. You got 2 minutes.
Kevin Bacon. Kevin Baker. Look at, I'm like so flabbergasted I have the infamous Kevin on. It's hard to collect my thoughts. But I just wanted to bring up the fact about how we manipulate fields. If we are energy, and if we go to the quantum, the subatomic, that there is electromagnetic lightning flashes that are occurring, just like when lightning flashes during a storm. And if we can create this through thought, then we know that we can manipulate the field. So as we have shown before, Kevin, with Australia and also the PPP magic, that we can manifest our future. So remember the miracles that we are, and thank you three gentlemen for being the miracles you are. And I love you all dearly. Toodles.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate hearing from you.
I love you back, man.
All right. That's awesome. Good to hear from Nacy. And that's about a perfect finish, brother.
Yep, it is.
Can you give people information how to stay in touch with the Kev Baker Show in case they don't already know?
Yeah, you can check me out, the Kev Baker Show on YouTube. I've got a website. I need to get back to updating the website right enough, but TFRLive.com. That's the home of the Kev Baker Show. Go. I'm there near enough every night of the week. And at weekends, I do a crazy kind of abnormal stream with Joe, Scott, and tomorrow night I'll have Popeye on the show. So who knows what might happen then.
It's always epic, brother. But thank you so much for coming on the show. It's just been amazing, and we will have no trouble in March. I can tell.
No, guys, let me thank you because it's really, really great. And I mean, I promote your show all the time for a reason. Yeah. There's a million shows out there, but I genuinely love the work you're doing. And
awesome.
It's been an honor being here with you. I really do mean that. Thank you very much, both of you.
Well, it's been an honor for us to have you, brother, and thank you. Stick on the Skype if you've got a couple minutes after the show. But ladies and gentlemen, that's about going to wrap it up for us. Again, remember, Paisley Wild is coming up next on TFR, iHeart, TuneIn, and TalkStream Live,
and then
on the Spaces Between. And you can also check her on YouTube if you want to watch the live stream, youtube.com/Spaces Between, Don, or the Spaces Between. The Spaces Between. And then after that, on TFR, iHeart, TuneIn, and TalkStream Live, you can catch The Duke. World Bigfoot Radio on TFR Live, which Duke hangs out in the chat room over there.
Yeah.
And it's a great opportunity to get the inside scoop and further information on the story that is airing. So hang out with the Duke at tfrlive.com/chat. Create a username, create a password, and hang out with the Duke. It's a great time, great opportunity to sit back and listen with him and to get the inside scoop and things that didn't make the episode that kind of fill in a lot of blanks. So, but that's it. Don, anything quick?
Thank you all for being with us. Thank you for those of you who came over because Kev's on, because we love Kev too. And we'll see you next week.
Perfect. Ladies and gentlemen, we love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other. Help each other out. Find the magic in every day, and remember to laugh as much as you can. And I'll be back tomorrow with some night terror, so I'll see you then. Good night, everybody.